Welcome and thank you for joining us. Today we have the privilege of presenting the 2022 Latin Trade IndexAmericas Awards. My name is Muni Jensen, moderator for Latin Trade, and I'm very happy to be here for the third year in a row, and hopefully we can go back to in-person meetings next year. This event has given us a unique opportunity to annually meet extraordinary business leaders who have found ways to transform corporate action into an effective lever to make Latin America a better place to live. We want to especially congratulate this year's honorees and their amazing commitment to sustainability, to the environment, and to society at large. Today's 5 sustainability awards will be presented to representatives from Roche Holding, Grupo Financiero, Banorte, Tim Brazil, BBVA, and Microsoft. And we are privileged to have the president of the Inter-American Development Bank, Mauricio Claver-Carone, with us. And I remember very well that in 2020, just 3 weeks after he took office, Mauricio made his first public appearance right here at the Latin Trade IndexAmericas Sustainability Awards. So the IDB has been our partner on this endeavor from the onset, and we are proud and honored to work with them. To kick off this year's award, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Richard Burns. Richard is a general partner of Blackhall Ventures, and prior to that was a longtime general partner of ISIS Venture Partners and has had multiple positions advising and leading companies in the world of news, media, and publishing, among others. He has served on a number of public and private boards, including the Americas Society, the American Museum of Natural History, and Carnegie Hall. He's a graduate of Oxford University, University of Munich, and Columbia University. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Muni. Today marks the 5th anniversary of Latin Trade's awards honoring the most sustainable companies in Latin America. And over the years, the IndexAmericas Sustainability event has become a forum for the best to meet the best and for all of us to learn from valuable experience. And those experiences point again and again for the need to have trusted corporate partners for both the people and the planet. The awards have allowed us to identify characteristics associated with excellence in corporate ESG action. 5 years have yielded 25 outstanding companies. 12 of them, perhaps not a major surprise, have been multinationals with global headquarters in Europe and 6 in the United States. However, 7 of the awardees have been extraordinary companies headquartered in Latin America. And we're not actually sure yet what to make of the fact that this League of Excellence is yet to feature an Asian winner. Along the way, we have learned something about the returns and risks of sustainable practices. We've all repeatedly heard that ESG compliant companies are more profitable than those that do not conform. We tested this claim with stock price data from past LT IndexAmericas winners, and we found that 85% of their stocks consistently beat local market indices. And we believe this isn't random, but a stable causal relationship. We've also heard that ESG compliance is a potent risk mitigation tool. And data on the variance of stock prices of our winners showed that all of them, even those that were not as profitable, were less vulnerable to market downturns. In the worst cases, their quotes fell 15% less than market indices. For most, prices fell much less than the market and often not at all. So what's the explanation? We believe that in part, good environmental and social practices build trust, which is the glue that holds corporations and stakeholders together. It's a basic element to future-proof almost any organization. But far be it from me to stand between you and our noteworthy corporate stories this morning. And let me congratulate the winners, Banorte, BBVA, Microsoft, Tim Brazil, and Roche. Thank the participation of President Mauricio Claver-Carone give a nod to McKinsey partners Mekala, Krishnan, and Clemens Müller, give a hand to the kind and enthusiastic support of our partners at the IDB, especially to our old friend Bernardo Yamon, and a special thank you to André Hoffmann, Vice Chairman of the Board of Roche Holding, who is really a true global sustainability pioneer, and he graces us with his presence today. People like you, and those of you in the audience, and those of you who will watch this video in the future, give us the assurance that Latin America will have a brighter future. Back to you, Muni.
Thank you, Richard, for your reflection. It is the perfect introduction to our discussion today on the net zero transition based on research from a publication led by Mekala Krishnan, who is here with us today. We will hear from her in a bit, but first we welcome Mauricio Claver-Carone, President of the IDB. Welcome back, Mauricio, and we're going to kick off with a question for you. How is the IDB supporting net zero pathways and the energy transition in Latin America and the Caribbean?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Muni. Great to see you. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here with you again today. So look, I mean, we can talk about, we've had, last year we had record levels, our highest amount ever on climate operations. We did about $24 billion, and which we've committed for over the next 4 years. And so we're looking also to first and foremost lead with mobilization of the private sector. We just introduced a new model for IDB Invest 2.0, which in that regards, we're looking to become a mobilization bank. That $53 trillion that's supposed to be out there in regards that is out there right now, about 25 trillion, about 50 trillion by 2025 in ESG money that's sitting on the sidelines. We want to mobilize it into the region. We want the Latin America and the Caribbean to be a winner, the prime winner in regards to those investments in that regard. So we can talk about those record levels of financing and in that regards. In the energy sector, our climate-related approvals increased from 40% when I became president to 55% last year. So we're moving, with the wind at our backs through our technical support, multi-sectoral lending that supports policy reforms, institutional changings. We are helping create a broad and very important whole of government buy-in, which is important in this regards. So we're also building consensus at the regional level, and that's important. We're the technical secretariat for the Renewable Energy for Latin America Initiative, also known as RELAC in that regards. And we've also created important partnerships to mobilize, by the way, not just private sector financing through our new model IDB Invest, but also philanthropic financing. We launched initially a fund with Rockefeller Foundation and also with now the new Global Energy Alliance, where we're also going to help scale and mobilize philanthropic funds for energy projects in the regions. Let me give you an example in Santiago, Chile, which is an important model for decarbonization where the region is headed. Electric buses. They generally cost less to operate, but require a much higher initial investment. That's not easy, obviously, for individual operators. We here at the IDB, just to give you an example of how it works, help change the regulations to separate the operation and the ownership. Electric companies like Enel and Engie who bought the buses, had then a small investment from them and rented them then to the operator. So today now, as a result of this, Chile has the largest fleet of electric buses in the Western Hemisphere. We're also ramping up our work with countries on fiscal policies that are going to be conducive to the transition and help reskill the labor force. And we're happy to say we're on the forefront of innovative market-friendly tools. In Chile, again, our private sector arm, IDB Invest, and Engie, we had the first pilot project in the world to monetize cost of decarbonization there. And what we saw there with the goal was to replicate, and obviously what we want to do is with this project in Chile, in Engie, to replicate it across the region to speed up the energy transition. So lots we're doing, and obviously that we want to scale throughout the region.
And we will talk a little bit about this in more detail in a minute, but first we'll hear from Mekala, McKinsey Global Institute partner, on her research and the necessary actions that must be taken to accomplish this transformation. Mekala, welcome.
Great, thanks, Muni, and wonderful to be with you all. Thank you to the organizers for the opportunity to share some of our work here. So I'm Mekala Krishnan. I'm a partner with the McKinsey Global Institute, which is McKinsey and Company's business and economics research arm. It's essentially the think tank that sits inside of McKinsey, where I lead a lot of our research on climate risks and the net zero transition. And that was really the starting point for new research that we launched in January of this year, We saw at COP26 and even the lead up to COP26 rising momentum towards the net zero transition, growing commitments on the part of companies as well as countries. However, the challenge that we see is that there's two big challenges with the nature of these commitments today. The first is, even if you add up all these commitments on paper, they don't limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Typically, all the commitments added up together will get us a world of about 2.1, 2.2 degrees Celsius. So that's one challenge. The second challenge is that commitments on paper are very different from actions on the ground. And so what this research tried to do was to analyze the nature and magnitude of the economic shifts that we will need to get us to net zero. We did look a little bit at the technologies that we need to get us to net zero, but our sense is actually technological innovation is not the key bottleneck today. And it's really understanding the nature of these shifts that we need to undertake, how economies need to transform, how companies need to transform, implications for communities, for workers, for individuals, understanding that and managing that effectively that will get us to net zero. And so to that end, we understood, we sought in this research to understand a whole range of transformations. We looked at implications on demand, implications on costs, implications on capital, implications on jobs. We did this across 69 countries, across sectors that accounted for about 85% of overall global emissions, to really try and build this global perspective of what the net zero transition would take. Maybe just a sentence, and then we can go to other questions, Muni, but a sentence on what the research actually found. As we did all of this analysis, what we found was that the net zero transition has 6 key characteristics. And it's important to understand these characteristics as stakeholders look to manage the transition. So first and foremost, the transition is universal. Every part of the economy needs to participate. Every sector, every country needs to participate. The second is that it's a significant transition. The scale of capital deployment that we're talking about is enormous. We estimate that about $275 trillion, that's trillion with a T, would need to be spent in the next 30 years on energy and land use systems to get us to net zero. It's a substantial increase from what we're spending today. It's about 60% increase every year from what we're spending today. So there is a significant capital deployment problem here that we need to handle and manage. And it is a transformation of capital from what we're spending on high emissions assets to low emissions assets. So it's universal, it's significant, it's front loaded. The next decade is decisive to get us to this net zero path. It is uneven. The impacts of the transition will not be felt the same across sectors, across geographies, across communities. And without the transition being just and inclusive, we believe the transition will not occur. It is one that is exposed to risks. As we look to manage the long-term risks of rising warming and climate change, we also need to understand the short-term risks, for example, on energy security, on energy prices, on supply chains. And so navigating the short and the long term is also very important. And then finally, for all these complexities, it's important to also recognize the end game of why we're doing this. And so we find that eventually the transition is rich in opportunity and comes with a whole suite of benefits. Of course, the biggest benefit being avoiding physical risks, but above and beyond that, there are also near-term business opportunities, as Richard was also alluding to, near-term business opportunities for companies as they look to benefit from new efficiencies the net zero transition creates, as they look to access new markets, reach new consumers. So that's a very, very quick tour of a 224-page report, but happy to dive into more detail if that's helpful. Maybe.
Thank you, Mekala. That was a wonderful summary of some very ambitious work. And we'd like to hear from Clemens Müller-Falck, partner at McKinsey Latin America and Caribbean, to hear from you about how specifically Latin American business can respond to this challenge. Clemens.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. It's a fantastic topic. We're seeing a lot of movement in sustainability in the region, and I think two changes I would like to highlight over the last just couple of years that have been happening here is, number one, sustainability has really become one of the main priorities for all of the large companies here in the region. It's really gotten onto the agenda of the top executives. And number two, it's been seen more and more as an opportunity. So not just something where you can differentiate your company, but something where you can drive positive change in a way that actually builds stronger and higher performing business in the future. And then if we talk a bit more about the opportunities for businesses here in the region. So four maybe to highlight. Number one, Latin America has a fantastic renewable energy potential. We will have some of the lowest cost renewable electricity and green hydrogen in the world. And we have a scale. So we can not just power our continent here with clean energy in the future, we can actually export and about covering about 10% of the global final energy demand in the future with clean energy, and provide up to a third of the global demand for green hydrogen. Second, we can provide a lot of the material that is required for the decarbonization of the world. For example, minerals. So if you want to produce a certain amount of electricity, and you do that with renewable electricity instead of thermal plants, then you need around 2 to 3 times the amount of metal. And we have the iron ore, we have the copper for that. Third, this is actually an opportunity to bring more manufacturing to the region. So that means more high qualified, high paying jobs. So instead of just providing the renewable electricity, renewable energy, and renewable and the materials to the world, we can manufacture high energy intensive products here and export those. Fourth, LATAM has around 25% of the global opportunity for natural climate solutions. So basically CO2 absorption by nature. This is the cheapest way to sequester greenhouse gases. And most of the potential here in the region can be activated at cost less than $50 per ton of CO2. So a lot of opportunities for us in the region. I think businesses are understanding that and are moving towards capturing that.
Thank you, Clemens, and I'll kick it back to Mauricio. You've mentioned several opportunities for Latin America. What do you feel from the IDB are the next frontiers, Mauricio, for a decarbonization of the region, and what can the region gain from the transition at such a difficult time that it's facing?
Yeah, well, obviously, as you just heard, obviously Latin America has a large share of renewable energy in electricity. It's about 60% of electricity in Latin America and the Caribbean is produced from renewables today. Costa Rica, for example, that national decarbonization plan, which frankly is a model for the world and which we proudly here at the IDB actively supported, that's going to yield an estimated $40+ billion in net benefits within 3 decades. So that's going to include the use of renewables and savings in energy. Now, we know obviously that our region uses other sources of energy in industry and transportation. And when we factor that in, our percentage of renewables, though, unfortunately decreases to 33%. And for this reason, we believe strongly that improving the electrification of public transportation is really one of those next frontiers. So we've worked with both public and private sector partners on more than 70 electromobility initiatives in 20 countries. And that's going to help not only climate change mitigation as well as public health, by the way, but also is going to represent a huge opportunity for the mining sector, which is rich in minerals needed for batteries, for example. By the way, there's not a windmill that doesn't require copper and nickel, world's largest producers in South America, electric batteries, lithium, again, largest producers in South America, rare earth minerals as well, South America. So, I mean, these are huge opportunities, so we need to focus in that regards. Other frontiers in the energy sector, fuel switching in those hard to decarbonize segments, that's going to be really important. There's a lot of excitement about green hydrogen, and the IDB is particularly active in this area from both in Colombia and in Panama. In Latin America, we see overall primary energy and electricity demand is estimated to increase between 25 or 40% by 2040. However, unfortunately, the region's matrix, the energy matrix and the renewable assets are going to make it in a good way, ideal for improving competitiveness with the right approach. So we need to work hand in hand. And what's going to be key as well is private sector interest. And that's what we're tapping into. We created last year the largest private sector coalition in the history of the bank, began with 40 companies up to 170 now. And we've devoted the daily work of that private partners coalition to a sustainability working group. And that includes now 45 of those leading companies. And we're doing a lot in regards particularly to electromobility and green hydrogen, because again, that mobilization is going to be the game changer. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities there in the next frontiers.
Thank you, Mauricio, and thank you for the partnership and for all the great news and the very interesting projects. And we hope to have this again in person, probably at the IDB, hopefully.
Let's do it. You're welcome anytime.
I want to get a reaction on priorities from Clemens and Mekala. And I'll start with Mekala, and to bring about all the changes that you identified and all of the takeaways from the report. Where should we start? There are so many challenges that need to be addressed at the same time. So what is the starting point?
Yeah, that's a great question, Muni. I think the two things I would highlight. First is I think the net zero transition is going to require a change in mindsets in various ways, right? And it's not trivial, but it's important to recognize and for organizations to internalize. On the one hand, it will require balancing both risks and opportunities, thinking about the shifts that organizations need to undertake, grappling with uncertainty. And so this will require companies building a new form of muscle, organizations building a new muscle around resilience and around shifting their strategies. So that's one type of change in mindset. The second is potentially extending planning horizons. We need to take longer term views of many of the investments that we need to make, not just think about immediate paybacks, immediate returns. And then the third, building a bit on what Mauricio was just alluding to, the third kind of mindset shift is not just thinking about your own organization and within your four walls, but also thinking about new partnerships, new forms of collaboration to drive this shift. Some of that is collaboration between the public and the private sector, between the multilateral and the private sector, across private sector institutions, between the real economy and financial institutions. This is, as I said, a universal whole of economy transformation. It's rebuilding in 30 years, things that took 1 or 2 centuries to set up. And so without that form of collaboration, without thinking about innovation differently, partnerships differently, I don't think we'll get there. So a big set of shifts around mindsets. I think the second is for every organization to ask themselves both what they can do to manage risks and opportunities for themselves, but also the role that they can play in securing a more orderly transition for the world. And the opportunities they can capture under this net zero economy. So it's both a within your four walls agenda, but also outside of your four walls agenda. So those would be just two quick things to highlight in this very, it is going to be a complicated journey for organizations, certainly.
And Clemens, we're going to give you the opportunity to, in the few minutes that we have left, kind of wrap up this wonderful panel that leaves us wanting some more time with all of you about the opportunities and also about some of the priorities.
Great, thank you. So maybe getting specific now to Latin America, yeah, on three areas that we need to work on when you talk about priorities here. So one is Latin America faces significant physical risks. Some countries now, Mexico, Honduras, that are hotter, they're going to face increased heat and water stress. Other companies, Brazil, Argentina, that have more diverse climates, can be exposed to changing biomes, flooding, extreme heat exposure in particular regions. So we need to work on this, and we need to understand what is going to happen and how to mitigate and make these climate changes less severe for those countries. The second area where we need to work on here in the region is that Latin America faces a significant transition exposure. We have a number of countries that are land use intensive, so Brazil, Peru, and Argentina. So addressing the agricultural transition, managing deforestation is really important. And countries like Mexico, Colombia, that have a large oil and gas industry. And then the third area is actually getting to net zero. So Latin America is expected to spend around 9 to 10% of GDP on physical assets under a current policy scenario. Now, achieving net zero, we don't have to spend more. We can actually get with the same number to net zero simply because we have such a good renewable energy potential, but we obviously have to change drastically what we are going to spend this investment on. So these three areas to highlight that we need to address here, and then that creates a number of opportunities for businesses that we have talked about in terms of renewable energy potential that we have in the region, in terms of the materials that we provide for the world, in terms of the manufacturing that we can maybe attract for energy intensive, especially products, and finally making use of a fantastic natural climate potential that we have with the forests basically that we have in the region.
Thank you, Clemens. Thank you, Mekala. Thank you, Mauricio Claver. This was a very thought-provoking discussion. It is now time to present the 2022 Latin Trade IndexAmericas Sustainability Awards to this year's winner. And the theme, very appropriately so, is the Sustainable Challenges for the Next Decade. Our first award in the category of Multilatinas goes to Grupo Financiero Banorte. The bank is the second largest provider of home mortgage loans in Mexico and manages one of the largest pension funds in the country. The group has taken great strides to align its operations, products, and services with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, choosing to be a sustainable bank. And to receive this well-deserved award, we welcome Tomás Lozano, Head of Corporate Development, Investor Relations, and ESG of Grupo Financiero Banorte. Welcome and congratulations, Tomás.
Moni, thank you very much. I would like to use this opportunity to thank Latin Trade for this important recognition for Banorte. I think it's very important that we banks or financial services companies understand the importance that we play in these necessary targets. Banks are key to the economy in different countries, and it's very important that we are aware of this importance. No? So at Banorte, we want to be the best bank in Mexico, but also we want to be the most responsible bank in Mexico. And as Richard stated a couple of minutes ago, we're doing things from the risk perspective. I will talk in a minute about that, and all over the fronts. I think the most important message that I would like to share with you is what Mekala mentioned. It's all about the action, the incentives, and really not only having long-term plans, but really having short-term objectives. And that's what we are obsessed with at Banorte. So let me share some things that are key. Now, some initiatives, frameworks, changes in the reporting that we are doing that are key in order for Banorte to get to this. No, it will take me, I promise, no more than 1 or 2 minutes. Firstly, was to put ESG as a key part for the new strategic plan in Banorte. In the past, it was only about financial metrics, no? But now ESG is right there next to return on equity and other metrics. So this is key. On reporting, now we're presenting ESG information every quarter. And you will see our report in a couple of weeks. No, we're doing TCFD and other best practices that I would say that the investors are asking for. No, so I think this is very important. I would like to also mention that a key for this has been having a sustainability committee that has different senior management members, cross-functional teams taking decisions. So this has been key. A second important factor has been that now we are presenting, and the COO and CFO is presenting every quarter ESG information to the board of directors. This has been key. So let me walk you through briefly some things we're doing on the E, on the ES, and on the G. On the E, as we discussed earlier, we joined the Net Zero Banking Alliance, and we are creating again short-term objectives. No, we have from here to 2050, 2030, and from this year and next year we also have objectives. So we're working on really being obsessed with this execution. Secondly, the sustainability team has an active voice in the risk committees. No, again, back to Richard's comments. This is key. So as we speak, we have evaluated 30% of the corporate loan book in terms of the impact it has, and around 50% for SMEs. Then we launched this year our first product with I would say better conditions for people that would like to purchase a hybrid or an electric vehicle, and we will be launching more sustainable products. We want to push more women in Mexico to start an SMEs, so we will be working in that direction. So sustainable construction. So in the upcoming months, you will be hearing more from these green products. This comes again from the board of directors. Also, I think on the social part, and this is very important now, as we discussed earlier, in countries like Mexico, we run last year more than 80 financial education workshops, benefiting more than 8,000 students in Mexico. And we talk about retirement, savings, investments. So I think this is, I would say, key for us. On the governance part, I think I would like to mention two important things. One was the importance of the board members to really know about this. So we started an evaluation program to see where we are at in terms of the board of directors, and now we're running an ESG training program for board of directors, and we are adding other things such as a matrix to understand the importance of each of the board members for the strategy of the group. So I think with this, Moni, I finished my presentation. I promise no more than 2 minutes, but to put it shortly, it's all about the execution and bringing short-term objectives rather than only long-term. No.
Thank you, Tomás, for your remarks, and congratulations on the very well-deserved award to Banorte.
Thank you.
We will now present the category of development to BBVA. BBVA has permanently launched products to fight climate change, equality, and sustainable development in the region. It has been recognized by the OECD as a key philanthropic player and by the OAS as an exemplary corporate citizen of the Americas. And we will hear from Javier Rodriguez Soler, Head of Sustainability. Congratulations.
I would like to thank Latin Trade and IDB personally and on behalf of BBVA for this recognition of our sustainable initiatives in the region, the Latin American region. This award from the Latin Trade IndexAmericas Sustainability Awards pushes us to keep working on the best sustainable solutions and then keep accompanying our clients in their environmental transition, both in Latin America and obviously in the rest of the world. It's an award that joins the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, recent recognition of BBVA as the most sustainable bank in the world. Sustainability is a strategic priority for BBVA. We take in sustainability a two-pronged focus on climate action and on inclusive growth, which are both so important and interrelated, particularly in the region. In Latin America, BBVA has been a pioneer in sustainable operations in the wholesale market, with green and social bonds and a unique transaction products framework that we offer to our clients. To name just a few of the most notable operations in the region. In Peru, we signed the first green loan in all of South America in 2018. And in Mexico, also in 2018, we were the first bank in the country to issue a green bond. The green bond in Mexico was $160 million, it was 3.5 billion Mexican pesos. We have also brought sustainability to our individual and SME customers, very importantly. One example, in Argentina, we were pioneers with a line of eco-friendly personal loans. And Uruguay, we recently launched a line of green loans for small and mid-sized businesses in Uruguay. Meanwhile, we also support inclusive growth as important as the climate change initiatives. So we support inclusive growth through financing. In Colombia, for example, we have formalized a line of green guarantees to build the Bogota subway. As part of our community investment, we've also invested over 50 million euros in social programs in Latin America in 2021. As BBVA is a pioneer in financial education programs in the region, especially in Mexico. Furthermore, very important, through the BBVA Microfinance Foundation, we are working to expand access to microfinance services in Latin America. Particular focus in supporting female entrepreneurs and vulnerable small business owners, also migrants and also the displaced. Since the foundation was first established in 2007, We have assisted over 5 million people and granted more than 13.8 billion euros in loans. Let me highlight something. BBVA Microfinance Foundation was recognized by the OECD as the foundation that does the most to contribute to development in Latin America. And the foundation is also the foundation that contributes the most to gender equality. How we will approach in the next few years this huge endeavor? Well, emerging economies are key and play a critical role. So all the action and decarbonization should be global to have the real impact. The emerging economies, and in particular Latin America, should join the rest to decarbonization. It's not just a developed markets endeavor, it's a work for the whole world, and the emerging economy should play a very, very relevant role. Why? First, because according to the United Nations, emerging markets will experience the negative effects of climate change much more than the developed world. And second, because these regions have enormous potential for renewable energy projects and for the introduction of nature-based solutions to offset CO2 emissions in many sectors, from agriculture, industry, real estate, and so on. So this could be a great opportunity for the growth and development. I repeat, this could be a great opportunity for Latin America and the rest of the emerging market world growth and development. In general, we think banks play a fundamental role in accompanying their clients in the transition towards a more sustainable future with financing and with advice. We're using data and technology. And in BBVA's case, our expertise and leadership in these markets will continue being key. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Javier. Our next award in the category of corporate governance goes to Microsoft. Microsoft is recognized for its strict compliance with responsibilities to shareholders, practices, and policies of corporate governance that facilitate monitoring and permanent evaluation of the company's commercial operation, and prioritizing trust with stakeholders is an essential element to business success. Microsoft is committed to strong pro-environment policies and to become a carbon negative firm. It is my pleasure to present my longtime friend, Maria Paula Duque, Director of Sustainability, Microsoft LATAM and United States. Welcome, Maria Paula.
Thank you, Muni. Thank you, Latin Trade IDB. I'm so pleased and honored to receive this award on behalf of all the employees of Microsoft Latin America that have been working and make this a reality. We are absolutely committed with the transformation and a road to net zero economy. Our 4 pillars, as you mentioned, include become a carbon negative company by 2030, water positive company by 2030. One that I like a lot is remove all our historic emissions by 2050, and also be a zero waste company in all our operations worldwide, and build the superplanetary computer that I believe would be critical for Latin America. We see Latin America as the lung of the world, the place where all the good natural resources will help the planet to compensate. And we also see Latin America as the place where the food that the world is gonna need is gonna be produced. So we also see agribusinesses as very important, a part of what we do and how we interact with them. We are also convinced that we are living a new transformation for business. As it was the 4th industrial revolution in terms of the digital transformation, it's going to be sustainability for the next year in every business. And our models rely on the convinced that data will be critical, data in real time. You will be surprised, but mostly 60% of CO2 emission data in organizations run around in Excel data sheets that are not real-time information. It is also surprising that despite we have the tools, we usually make our sustainability reports with the data of 1 year ahead and not looking forward. So we are also building products and technologies that allow other organizations to reach their goals faster. Let me give you a couple of examples. We have opened for every organization in the world an impact dashboard of CO2 emission by using cloud computing. So what we like is our customers to see when they move their operation from their own data center to a cloud facility, how much CO2 they are saving and how less emissions they are doing by taking a decision like that. We published a carbon study on 2019 about the reduction of using the cloud computing, and you will be surprised, but it's around 90% reduction on CO2 emissions by using the cloud infrastructure. If you use Teams and not go to work and you really embrace the hybrid workplace, you will be having at least 92% emission reduction just by connecting from your home without mobilizing to your work. We will be announcing shortly before June what we call the Cloud for Sustainability. That is really very power and easy to use technology so organizations can record, report to stakeholders, and reduce their emissions in one single place. So if you're a company, you just have to connect that cloud with all the information that the company may have, all kind of information, and the technology will make you the calculations to see how is your carbon footprint and start working to reduce it in the short term. We have also created globally, maybe 1 month ago, a carbon coalition with auditing firms, so we can all work in a better way to decide which is the right way to measure carbon emission, which are the standards that we need, how can we really talk in a common language to make a road to the net zero economy more clear, more transparent, so our stakeholders can know exactly where every one of us is in our road. Last week, we announced or opened to the market our 2021 sustainability report. I said that we were very happy because we reduced 17% scope 1 and 2 emissions, but we increased 22% scope 3 emissions. And it's part of the transparency and the discussion at what happened on that scope. The first thing is we include 87% of the supply chain in the report. All the parts of the providers that we have in our supply chain were measured. And that's an area where I believe all companies need to work. Not all our suppliers are ready to measure their own carbon footprint. We may need as companies to help them to get to the next level, even give them financial aid so they may be able to measure better their CO2 emissions. And because our economic activity grew in terms of devices like Xbox and Surface, or the data centers grew globally, we also saw an increase in the 23%. So, but that's part of the responsibility that we need to have in our stakeholders, open the data, show the roadmap, show where we are, and really draft what is going to be the next steps to continue reducing our carbon footprint.
Thank you, Maria Paula, and congratulations for all the good work and for this award. Our next award for social inclusion is to Alberto Griselli, CEO of TIM Brazil. TIM is recognized for its commitment to human rights, inclusion, diversity, and education, and has benefited hundreds of thousands of STEM trainees in the country. TIM Brazil is part of the S&P Sustainability Yearbook 2022 and has been recognized in Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index. Welcome, Alberto Griselli, CEO of TIM. Congratulations.
Hi, thanks, and good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be with you today and to receive such an important award that sums up to the one that has just been mentioned. We started the ESG journey more than a decade ago. And since then, we put together plans and actions, and we are happy that these are being recognized. On the social side, we have, for example, I'll give you some example, as Tomás was saying, it's more about execution now. We put together, we have something that is called Team Institute that promotes education, technical education to Brazilian public. We basically already impacted more than 700,000 young Brazilians providing education. Last year, we launched a movement which is called Mulheres Positivas. Don't translate this in English, I'll leave it like this. And basically, we put together a group of the largest 50 companies in Brazil. So we created this movement whose objectives is to provide job opportunities to Brazilian women. So diversity is inclusion is one of the main pillars of our activities, as this movement is now quite large. It's comprised by this company that put together the job opportunities in an application that is provided to all our customer base and the market as a whole, we communicate this, and so we stimulate these opportunities for the Brazilian women that has been heavily impacted during the pandemic. Another example, a recent one, is what we call the conscious keyboard. And we launched this last year. And we are a technological company. We impact a huge number of people. And so if you download this small application on your mobile phones, it alerts users when they use prejudice word, and they explain the meaning of the word, and they suggest replacement. There's been quite a big impact here. It's available to our customer base, to all the Brazilian mobile users. So all in all, guys, this award for us, it's a proof that our commitment and action plans is making a difference. And we get more drive to continue our journey in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks and for your wonderful accomplishments. Congratulations. We will now present our final prize for Roche in the environment category. Roche's corporate operation runs on the principle that company growth should be in harmony with nature and society, not at their expense, and with employees who strive to help people in a sustainable, lasting way, prioritizing environmental challenges and working for decades towards a low-carbon future. Today, we recognize the company and its commitment to the climate agenda, but also a person who has led sustainable corporate action for more than 40 years. André Hoffmann, vice chairman of the board of Roche Holding, Switzerland, is a pioneer in his field, where sustainability was not the key strategic component of firms around the world. His vision led him to become a member of the Club of Rome, and later to become a member of the governing board of the World Economic Forum. André will be receiving the award and closing this award ceremony with his thoughts on the sustainability challenges for the next decade. Congratulations to you and to Roche for this distinction. André could, at the last minute, not join us, but has sent a video with his remarks. Welcome, André.
Hello, thank you very much, and good evening to all of you. I'm really sorry not to be here to be giving this address directly. I have a couple of issues which have made it impossible for me to be with you, and so I am sending this video instead. I'm fully aware that this is not completely recognition of the wonderful honor you make me by inviting me to your event, but I'm terribly sorry this is what I'm forced to do. First of all, let me congratulate Roche to have received this environmental prize. This is a wonderful achievement, and I'm very proud as a chair of the sustainability committee of the company to see that our efforts are recognized in such a manner. So thank you to all. Thank you to the Roche teams, the Roche colleagues, and thank you to the juries to have given us this award. Now, let me please make a couple of remarks over the next couple of minutes about what I believe we are talking about when we talk about environment. When I started, my father, was a particularly noted naturalist who was one of the founder of the conservation movement in Europe. He was very interested in nature, in particular in species and in species. So how can we protect individual species, and how can we do something about protecting pristine nature? I have, at a very early age, started to follow him up on his different ventures, and in particular, I associate myself to the WWF, the World Wide Fund for Nature, where I volunteered first as a student and where I eventually joined the governance of the institution, serving 18 years as the vice president of the organization. So during this activity, I was reminded of a couple of important facts, especially if I link them up to the fact that our family is also a majority shareholder of the Roche Group. Now, why is nature under such threat, and why do we see nature constantly having to defend itself when it should be a part of our life? So I spent a bit of time trying to think about this, and an example I would like to mention is the example of WWF, where we have raised over the past 62 years funds to protect wildlife without wildlife being better protected than before. We have certainly solved a lot of crises and won a couple of battles, but we are losing the war. and the nature is in absolute free fall. In fact, it's pretty terrifying to just look at the numbers. Over the last 60 years, humanity has lost 57% of vertebrate species, has lost them. They will never come back, they're extinct. And that's, of course, a frightening statistic, which pushed me to try to understand what the root causes for the degradation of humans' life support system on Earth is. And I think I have an idea. An idea is that we are still concentrating too much on short-term profit maximization. Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize winner in 1976, for his theory based around the definition of the firm, which I can summarize in one sentence: the business of business is business, and therefore companies exist in order to make money, and that money is then redistributed to society through salaries and through dividends, through share prices, through taxes. And these sources of funding for the states will allow society at large to compensate for the collateral damages of this value creation. I would contend that this is not a very good way of managing a system, because it's a measure that is too narrow. I would like to see the world as being dominated by four capitals. The first one would be the natural capital, the planet. The second one would be the social capital, us, how we work with each other. The last one would be the human capital, our individual talent. How can you sort of help the human to continue to reach plenitude? And the three of them, and the three capitals taken together, analyzed together, will eventually yield the produced capital, which is the one we measure. So I started focusing my activities, in particular my advocacy efforts, more away from just trying to raise funds for nature, to trying to invent, perhaps, a new system where we can measure the impact humanity is having on the planet. And in this, I really would like to enlist the incredibly creative power of business, who generally have been so effective at creating the value which has helped us over the years. And they've created this value by using the mantra of business is business. If we were able to redefine that particular definition and launch ourselves into impact management based on the four capitals I've just mentioned, I think we have a fair chance of doing something for the planet to become a better system. So how do we do that? One of the solutions which I would recommend, apart from just trying to use the entrepreneurial power of businesses as a force for good, would also be to look a little bit at nature-based solution. I think nature has been very good at dealing with risk, has been much better as we have been to deal with risk, and I think in the long run we have a better chance of building stable system if we do not try to dominate and rule nature, but use it to work for us. As an example, we could purify water by using wetlands, reed beds, or we could store carbon by growing forests. These different changes are starting to appear, and I think this is very heartening to see that humanity, especially after the pandemic crisis, has started to realize that our system as is probably not resilient enough to support the destruction of our environment. So I see a lot of exciting initiatives around the place, and in particular your initiative to reward the company which behave in the most sustainable manner. Because, ladies and gentlemen, friends, we're going to need a sustainable prosperity if we want to be able to look after our planet and the inhabitants of this planet going forward. At the moment, there are about 8.5 billion people on the planet. We are going to go to 10 very soon. In the meantime, we are destroying our environment, as we said before. So we find ourselves faced with one particular equation, difficult to solve, but very relevant. How are we going to be able to do more with less? How are we going to create more outputs of whatever goods or services it is with less resources? The only thing that is helping us to exist on the planet is nature as a life support system. If nature gets in the way of our development, we have tried to destroy it. That's not a very long-term strategy. So let's move from short-term to long-term, and let's make sure we do not only protect nature, but also protect and reinforce the social and the human capitals. I think these are proper targets for society as a whole, and I would very much like to see over the next couple of years changes in that direction. Now, how do we achieve that? Probably by defining a better way of working together. I think the world needs a new social contract. What do we owe to each other, and how are we going to service each other? Let's redefine solidarity. Let's redefine the common big themes that brings us together. I'm thinking about peace, so relevant now with what's happening in Eastern Europe. I'm thinking about education. I'm thinking about job creation. There's an awful lot of things we can do by starting together, and starting together by promoting collaboration, diversity, biodiversity, to name it, but also at the same time trying to understand this new notion of solidarity. How can we solve things together? Private-public partnerships is certainly an example, and that's something I would like to see more of. Anyway, thank you very much yet again for having asked me to share some thoughts with you. There's so much more to say about it, but I'm afraid that we will leave it at that for the time being. So thank you very much for your assistance, for listening to me, and again, very sorry not to be with you.
Thank you so much, André Hoffmann, for your words, your thought-provoking remarks, and your rethinking of the concept of capital. I think you've left us with a lot to think about. And now we welcome Bernardo Yamon for the closing of this event. Bernardo is a manager of the Office of Outreach and Partnership of the IDB, and he really is the definition of a partner in this Latin trade initiative. So welcome, Bernardo, and thank you always for your support.
Well, thank you, Muni. Hello, and thanks to everybody for joining us. To begin with, I would like to congratulate today's awardees. This event is a celebration of your leadership in the sustainability space and your dedication to leaving a positive footprint behind in Latin America and the Caribbean. Inspiring stories like the ones we were hearing now are really make us to move forward into this direction. I would like to also thank our partners Latin Trade for their continued commitment to fostering corporate sustainability and celebrating IDB's Group's IndexAmericas initiative. When we held this event last year, countries in Latin America and the Caribbean and across the globe were struggling to acquire and distribute COVID vaccines. Yet today, it is estimated that 63% of the people across our region have already been vaccinated, making it the region with the highest vaccination rate in the world. That put us forward in an economic growth path that beat expectations. It is encouraging to see how much has changed from the position that we were last year. And we are confident as more and more companies follow the example of our these 2 days, we can expect to see such a positive change accelerate across and continues in the year ahead. Indeed, this belief in the private sector role is ushering in a decade of prosperity for our countries has long guided our efforts at the IDB. It is also central to our approach to implementing Vision 2025, Reinvesting the Americas, a 5-pillar agenda that identifies regional integration, the digital economy, support to SMEs, gender equality and diversity, and climate change as key opportunities to accelerate recovery and economic growth in the region. Fortunately, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have witnessed a reinvigorated commitment among our private sector partners working alongside the IDB Group in pursuit of recovery and in line with Vision 2025. These efforts have manifested in the private sector partners coalition mentioned by President Claver-Carone, an historic alliance of corporate actors that is working to channel corporate financing, their investments, knowledge, and innovation to the region in pursuit of sustainable and equitable recovery. Cooperating through 14 working groups linked to Vision 2025, the coalition has become IDB's group's primary vehicle for deepening bilateral ties with the private sector partners, for expanding cooperation along thematic lines, for bringing together diverse companies to gain industry-wide perspectives on key issues, and for channeling critical financing and innovation to support the region's development. The coalition is comprised of more than 160 active global companies and also Multilatinas, among that a number that has quadrupled since the coalition was launched only a year ago. It has generated exciting collaborations and projects with partners across all the pillars in Vision 2025. And we are contacted by additional private firms on a regular basis to express interest to join the coalition and their alignment with the Vision 2025, and the recognition that the private sector is the role in the recovery is truly essential. We also see commitment in the growing tendency among private sector actors to look beyond the bottom line and also prioritize their impact in ESG indicators and their overall well-being for the communities in which they operate. Also, this is taking notice by investors. Investors are looking more into putting more resources into ESG financing. For instance, an estimated $120 billion were channeled to sustainable investment last year, doubling the 51 billion captured only in 2020. This is a number that is every year multiplying, and I think Latin America has a lot to offer. As further evidence grows that sustainable investments perform as well or better than traditional investments, as Richard mentioned in the introduction, corporations increasingly understanding that are made better off by contributing to development in their communities, which they work, and are confident that these upward trends are set to continue. At the IDB Group, we'll continue working to seize these opportunities by first celebrating and incentivizing corporate sustainability through IndexAmericas family of indexes and knowledge products like we're doing today, working with local stock exchanges and relevant capital market stakeholders in the region to foster sustainable finance ecosystems at the national level, developing also new and sustainable financial products such as the 45 million structured note launched in Mexico in partnership with BNP Paribas and Scotiabank linked to IndexAmericas, creating tools such as the SDG Investment Toolkit that guide investors towards opportunities to close the gap in sustainable development goals. Also developing and fostering green, blue, gender bonds with our private sector clients and also with governments of the region. And also a great example of that is the green bond platform that we launched to help and promote the market of green bonds across Latin America and the region. And by expanding also the strengthening our cooperation with corporate actors in pursuit of recovery of the region. But there is even more that we can do moving forward. And as such, I will close the event today in a call for action. First, I would like to call the private sector to double down their commitment to improve lives in our communities in which they operate. Do this by identifying opportunities with your business model to operate more sustainably, and also by working alongside us, IDB Group, and our coalition to maximize the impact of your efforts. And secondly, I would like to ask also those in the financial industry, like those that are awardees today, to look into research that reflects the strong performance of sustainable investments and accordingly adjust to investment strategies to focus increasingly on those factors that make our societies and economies better off. And I ask that you remember that more prosperous and sustainable Latin America and the Caribbean region is only possible with a committed private sector like you. At the IDB Group, we look forward to working with you, driving the agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bernardo. And we stand challenged with all the work that is to be done. I'm also very impressed that we're only 3 minutes past our schedule, but I would take a minute to thank all the speakers, our panelists, our IDB partners. A special thanks to the Latin Trade team that has worked so hard, Lorena, Angelica, Fernando. And I want to ask Santiago Gutierrez, editor-in-chief of Latin Trade, and possibly the most camera-shy person in the entire world, to turn on his camera and receive a great round of virtual applause for his dedication, commitment to this event, and what it stands for, and for his outstanding work. So congratulations, Santiago. I don't see you.
Thank you so much, Moni.
It's really a joy to work with you and to have you put together this event. I know it's hard and challenging under these circumstances. So thank you very much. And I'll see you soon and everybody in next year's Latin Trade event, hopefully in person at the IDB, possibly. And again, thank you so much for joining us.